Hi, welcome to the TradeTrust Podcast series. Today we have Isabel with us. She told me that she has been in the shipping industry for 20 years. Honestly, I don't believe her because she looks much younger than having spent 20 years in the shipping industry. So Isabel is currently the General Manager of Pacific International Line, in charge of business process and shared services. Welcome, Isabel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Sinyon, for having me, and thank you, IMDA, for this opportunity as well to share a little bit more.
So, since Isabel come from a carrier, so of course today our topic of discussion is looking at specifically trade digitalization from the carrier's perspective, specifically container liner like PIL. So perhaps you can start the conversation off with actually how does PIL as a shipping carrier look at this topic of trade digitalizing, specifically the HO topic of electronic bill of lading, EBL.
For sure, thank you. And before I go into that topic, perhaps allow me to quickly do a very quick introduction of Pacific International Lines. For those who do not know, we are a Singapore headquartered shipping carrier. We are a global carrier. We have a few trade lanes that we are servicing quite a fair bit. So very good to be able to share a little bit more here on the digitalization of trade and the impact on what it should be like for the adoption of EBLs. So if we look at the whole landscape today of digitalization, EBL is a pivotal one because it really helps us to bring us to the next stage of how carriers, stakeholders such as customers, shipper, consignee work. There's a lot of things that we need to do as an industry, if I may say, and I trust that you agree with me. So one thing that we all know is that DCSA have slapped down a very big notion of having 100% adoption of EBL by 2030. To me, personally, I believe that it's quite a daring statement, I would say, and I always wonder what does it mean to do that. Yeah. So, but before doing so, I also wonder that if let's say we are able to hit this target in 2030, what does it mean for the industry? It's going to be significant. It's going to mean that there's going to be a lot more transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness for trade to take place. It's going to reduce so much time that a customer needs to perform their changes of documentation in order for them to take title of their goods. Imagine that. And at the same time as well, I always say, and I think we spoke a little bit earlier, shipping is very traditional. It's been there forever. It's a evergreen industry. So we are so used to, I give you a piece of paper, you sign, then I sign, then I get somebody else to sign. So it's going to be revolutionary if everybody can be on board together. Can you imagine that? It's going to take just seconds and minutes for us to get an entire flow done. Today it takes, if you're lucky, 2 weeks. If you're unlucky, the document never arrived. So with EBL adoption, I think one can also say that there is a lot more security when it comes to the transmission of documents between the various party holders. Yeah, because it's really about that.
Actually, very interesting. You say that shipping is a very traditional business, right? I'm sure when you started your career in the shipping industry, there are already EBL.
Was there?
I don't know. As far as you know, the concept of EBL is not new. It has been in the industry for at least 15 years, right? And we also know that most of the EBL adoption so far has been concentrating around dry bulk trade. But for a container liner like PIL, adopting EBL is a different ballgame.
Yes.
I think, first and foremost, what is in for you as a carrier? I mean, other than the efficiency game, perhaps you can actually share with us a specific example, more concrete example as to what does it mean?
One of the main important things for a carrier is to be able to provide a different approach that creates value for our customers. I mentioned a little bit earlier, shipping is very traditional. In order to produce documents, we possibly many a times have people sitting at the back of a computer trying to match the SI draft, trying to create the bills one day after vessel departure, so on and so forth. So tomorrow, if a EBL option is there, we are able to tell the customers, come on board with us, put your faith in us, be aware of what actually it means to be digitalizing in the whole trade cycle, and that will help you to create value because you are able to get your goods faster, you are able to deliver whatever you need to your end customer faster as well. And when customers are able to see that, hey, this entire chain can be so quick, they are also happy to work with the carrier that are actually able to introduce them to this whole concept. That's number one. I think that it really matters what we bring to the table as a carrier for our customers. The reason is because shipping is very old, traditional, and very transparent. When we look at the trade lane, all of us are competing for the same last dollar. It's not about like hundreds of dollars anymore. It's always about who is able to bring more to the table. So I think we, from a Pacific International Line's point of view, it's also important that we tell our customers that we are now transforming too. What does it mean for me as a carrier? I'm pushing the boundary. I'm pushing the boundary to become better. I'm pushing the boundary to become more future-proof. I'm also pushing the boundary to help you, customer, to maybe be a little bit more forefront in experiencing this digital innovations that's really going to come up. Because tomorrow, you never know, right? We have the entire AI wave coming. Come on, let's face it. A few years ago, have you heard of ChatGPT? Never. I've never heard of it before. But who knows, one day, everybody just talk about it and Gen AI is like the buzzword of the world. Hey, it's going to hit the shipping industry too, you know? When? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me to tell me that it's tomorrow. But I can also see that it's only a matter of time that shipping, container line, whether is it dry bulk, whether is it container, whether is it loose container load, all of us have to change. So early adoption of EBL is not only for the customers, but it's also helping us as carriers get ready for it. Because there is also the technology part as well. In order to support customers in EBL's adoption, we as a carrier have to ensure that our infrastructure is in place. We have to invest. Investment doesn't mean throwing money on the table and then, forget about it. It's really about, putting in place, number one, structure. Number two, resources. Number three, procedures. Number four, what kind of approach do we want? Do we only want one approach? Or do we want to have an agnostic one? For your information, PIL is towards the agnostic one. We don't want to choose only one particular platform. We really wish to be a little bit more collaborative and to see what else is there. And we can also see that as we take this approach of being more discovery, we realize that the different vendors that is available out there are also trying to tune their approaches differently. Maybe one, I will not name them, but maybe one particular one will say that, you must only be logging into my platform in order for everything to work. But a few days ago, just happened to have this chat, a few days ago I was talking to this particular vendor and I was asking that person, are you keen to explore with TradeTrust? Actually, you came up. TradeTrust came up and said, yeah, actually, why not? Why not? And I was like, they're open? And I was like, that tone has changed and I wonder why. And perhaps you may advise me why, because I wonder why is it that they are now changing their tone. And I wonder if it's really, they realize that there is limitation if we are only heading to that one way.
I see. Maybe we switch our focus a bit. I mean, putting TradeTrust aside, why they change their tone, honestly, I don't know. But
We can take that offline.
What we know that for the past at least 5+ years, we have been trying to educate the industry and convince the industry about the importance of such an interoperability framework. So, switching the perspective a bit, just we do some simple role play here. I'm the cargo owner, right? Today, for every consignment I ship, pay you BL fee, right? So now you are saying, oh, let's go E, right? Naturally, if I pretend to be a SME or business owner, so what is it in for me? Because today everything works fine. I send my cargo, then next day someone will pass me, or my freight forwarder will give me the piece of paper, and I courier, and I also can use this paper to do, say, for example, through the bank, payment against acceptance or DADP kind of a payment term. I'm so familiar with, and it has been used in the industry for so long. Why should I change?
Maybe allow me to debunk a little bit of the things that you have said.
Yeah.
There's so many milestones that you said. Let me just take the first one.
Okay.
The first one is you will collect that BL from the counter.
Yeah.
So you need to deploy a courier to go to the counter and then sit there and wait. And if you're lucky, you get an appointment. Nowadays, there's an appointment system.
Oh,
thanks
really?
to COVID. Yeah. Because we don't want people to just gathering there. And,
Okay.
So after COVID helped to play a part in this, to put in place appointment system. So your courier service, it's going to come to the doorstep of the carrier, and then they are going to exchange. So here is your risk number one. And actually, this maintains to be the biggest risk of them all.
Why?
Because a lot of times, do you validate that who is the person that's coming to the counter?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Not many people. Actually, this is the loophole of the entire industry. By the
Wow.
way. I'm serious. I have long ago believed that collection of DO by sending a courier there is the biggest loophole of shipping.
Wow.
This is just a personal view.
Okay.
Super personal, okay? So that's why I'm of the opinion that this step is already to be enhanced in the very beginning. Then there's the next step. By the way, there's cost. You get a courier, you need to go pay money. I don't know, Grab, $5, $10, $20, depending on how far you are. So that's already money to you. Then you have to go to the bank. So again, you send the courier, go to the bank, repeat, cycle, repeat. Then you assume that, the bank will send everything, let's say it's a letter of credit, whatever is happening, and everything goes, and it gets sent. If you're lucky, the document gets sent and it reaches the destination. But there is a risk element there. So what if it doesn't? I mean, we buy so many things online, right? I mean, I'm a lady, I buy a lot of stuff. Sometimes I get packages that's lost. Then how? Who do I go after? I will have to go back to the carrier and say, oh my God, dear carrier or dear bank, I lost my document. So to you, dear customer, that chain is already going to be a pain. And how long does it take? You tell me, 2 weeks. That guy say is lucky. Great, you have everything in place. But let's face it, it's not so smooth every day. It's really, it can take up to 4 weeks. Like if you get lost, you get 6 weeks, then your container will sit down there in the container port, chucking up tons and tons of detention and demurrage charges that carriers will bill you for it, and then you're going to go begging to the carrier and say, I'm so sorry, but I don't want to pay my detention and demurrage because I lost my bill of lading. So that discussion will take place, dear customer, and that will be mitigated if, let's say, he or she, the customer, wants to adopt the whole electronic mode of operating, because I said 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks is the time frame, and we have tested it out at PIL, by the way. We took like a few sampling exercise in the organization, and we said that, okay, most shipments, everything goes smoothly, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks. However, it can take longer if things happen. But when we tried, we have onboarded a few pilots with various vendors, and we see that actually this entire cycle can be further shortened, and it can be like just 1 day, 2 days, yeah? So that is really very, very fast. So dear customer, why don't you want to do that? And who knows, certain carriers, not saying that PIL has it, not saying that, certain carriers may offer a little bit of discount for electronic BLs. Certain, not saying we all, again, I have to disclaim, but certain carriers do.
Actually, this is not new to myself, specifically because I've been working to solving this problem for many, many years. And often those who new to this will say, hey, look, you are actually solving a chicken and egg problem. Because to be honest, when we talk to the carrier, of course, it's in our interest to promote digitalization, which is a job of IMDA. And we often ask them, hey, why are you not using EBL as your, say, your default mode of documentation with your customer? So typically the answer is, oh, my customer is not asking for it. Then we go to their customer. Then we ask, hey, Mr. Customer, why are you not requesting E from the carrier? Then the customer, hey, my bank is not using it. My bank is not accepting it. Then we went to the bank and we asked the bank, hey, look, why are you not accepting? Guess what?
The bank say they do, right?
No.
Then?
The bank say, oh, we are accepting it, but the carrier is not issuing it. So we have been honestly grappling with this vicious cycle for a long time. And in your opinion, how can we actually break this cycle?
I think actually you touch an interesting point, and I think that the whole issue is about change and change management and awareness of how things work. Because you talk a little bit of the story which you just shared, you go to the carrier say they don't accept, then they push us to the bank don't accept, customers say I don't know, then everything. It's always about what you don't know, right? So we need to break that cycle by creating more awareness. Things like this, I think IMDA, you are taking the first step and as a forefront to be and to help people in the industry, including the carriers, including the customers, to be implementers of this change. And we as carriers, in fact, play two very important roles. One is we want to be the catalyst of the change because you said just now the carrier has to issue the EBL, i.e., we have to ensure that our system and our logic has to be in place to support the EBL approach. And that is a requirement in order for change to take place. The enablers has to be there. We have the strategy for change. The strategy is we want to adopt EBL. But we need to create the enabler to ensure that our system, process, people are in place to support it when change takes place. So these are the change agents. So this is the carrier side. And for the rest of the other people, I think for the customers, there's always a fear of the unknown, right? Human being is change management, it's change resistance. We need to tell the customers and have a little bit more soft educating forums like so, whether is it training. I always believe that it doesn't mean that training is only for internal stakeholders. Training can also be in the form of we providing a value-added service to our customers to let them know, hey, what does it mean? And to our customers, it's also not simply about training just one particular pillar of that stakeholder. Rather, we can also take in a few banks, including in the training, to offer points of view. Like what we are doing, I think we had a few events recently where we had people representing different verticals, if I were to use, putting everybody together who are responsible for the topic, sit together and tackle all these known issues or myth that is going around to say that, hey, you don't allow actually everything if you sit together. Actually, we do. And when we have everybody together, you maybe reach the eureka moment and say, hey, it's not that difficult after all. So that's how I see it. I think that there needs to be a lot of education. It cannot be one part. And it takes a lot of hands to tango. It's always everybody. It takes two to tango, takes three to make a dance together. So I think that's how I see it. It's a joint effort, I would say. Then on a more structural side, I think that the legal framework has to be tackled. I think we talked a little bit earlier as well on the legality of it all. You reminded me that it was 6 countries, I think.
About 6 to
Yeah,
7.
6 countries.
I lost track.
Yeah, and that covers a larger portion of the statutory laws that is able to recognize the notion of EBLs. I think that's a good start. But we need to definitely push a little bit more, because the laws is one thing, but we have also the insurance part, which we also spoke about. The IGP&I clubs, they are still a little bit slow to the game, if I were to use this terminology. And we need to see how to get them on board. There needs to be laws that is structured and governing the entire notion. I mean, imagine you're playing a board game. You cannot have 6 sets of law to play that board game, right? Everybody will move their toys differently. Cannot be. So Monopoly follows one single rule. So similarly as well, there needs to be a rule that governs this whole board game of Monopoly that we are trying to do. But again, it need not be one single law. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there needs to be a structured, standardized framework that governs the different laws that help us to converge to the same objective. So that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
And okay, you touched on a very interesting point about insurance risk. And we often being asked this question, right? Under the new law, statutory law framework for dealing with this thing called electronic transferable record. So what are the risks and liability that a carrier in particular will be concerned about?
For us as carriers, I think it's the coverage that is bounded to the title of the goods, right? That's the most critical part of it. So it needs to be clear, number one, what is our liability to the owner? Because we are carrying their goods on our vessel.
Yes.
What if something happens to it?
Yes.
And that part have to be safeguarded.
Right.
Yeah. And usually, of course, whoever that holds the BL is the one that is responsible and is entitled to the goods, and then is responsible for anything were to take place. I think any mishaps were to happen, where does the money goes to? So where does the insurer cover? So to me, I mean, I'm no lawyer, so I think that from my limited understanding of how the law works, this would be one of the most critical part of it from a shipping line perspective.
So in terms of risk, right? Perhaps we can actually deep dive a little bit here.
Sure.
What kind of risks are we talking about? Misdelivery claims, cargo loss claim, or cybersecurity risks? What exactly the risk that is the number one?
I wouldn't say that there is one risk that is the mother of all risk. I would say that it's a combination of all possible risk. Anything can happen, right? I mean, things can really happen. As we can see last week, there was a big incident.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-blowing that something like this happened and without us knowing it. So if you ask me what is the most critical risk that can happen today, I cannot answer it, and I say that it will be that one. I cannot. Because cybersecurity is also a big one, right? I mean, now that we are getting more and more digitalized, and you have heard of companies getting hacked so easily nowadays, it can also happen to anybody. And I think shipping lines, it has also been publicized that a fair number of shipping lines has been hacked in the past years. Yeah? So I like I said, I can't say which is the most important one. It has to comprise of all elements that is relating to all these risks that you have mentioned, all of the above. The answer would be all of the above. Yeah.
Okay, maybe then we bring our conversation back to the beginning where you mentioned about DCSA. I know the 8 members of the DCSA came out and declared that they want to do 100% 2030, and you mentioned that this is a very ambitious goal, or?
I think ambitious, daring, and to me, interesting goal. Yeah, because I see that the adoption, correct me if I'm wrong, it's still in the single-digit view right now for certain carriers.
Well, some
some carriers are better than others. Yeah.
Some carriers claim to be doing like 10% or more, but the overall numbers that we get from all the different study is around 2 to 3%. Of course, these 2 to 3% is a combination of wet bulk, dry bulk, and container, but specifically for container line. So, in order to achieve the 2030 target, right, based on your experience, what do you think the carrier needs to do in order to be able for them to actually increase the likelihood of achieving this target?
I think along our discussion, we touch a fair bit. So I will speak about tech first. I think technology plays a key to the whole matter. Like I said, for PIL as an example, for us, we recognize that technology is important and is a foundation for supporting this initiative. Hence, one key thing is to get our technology infrastructure in place, and we are doing so right now. In fact, that's also the reason why we have been taking part and be a little bit more active to partake in things that are relating to EBL recently, in the recent years, is because we want to also test whether our system is ready. This is, how do I say, a scalable option for us to do our testing, because it's still quite manageable right now. We are able to do proof of concepts with various vendors to really see whether is there a possible scenario where we can try to hit the nail on the head and say, hey, this is the model that we can go to. Yeah, so hence that part is the tech portion as a carrier, what we need to do to secure it. Secondly is I talk a little bit about increasing traction with the customers. And here is where we are trying to educate our customers in our own ways. Of course, we are not doing podcasts like this, but tomorrow maybe we can use this podcast to share with our customers and say, hey, quick one, this one is possible. But jokes aside, what we are also trying to do is to create materials for our customers to understand, number one, what is EBL? Number two, what are some common misunderstandings? And how do you get over those common misunderstandings? Because we talk about interoperability, right? It's a big word to say as well, by the way. It's a big concept, it's also a big word to say. But that doesn't mean that interoperability is the only way to go. PIL is very agnostic. We are happy to work with a lot of different vendors to explore different options because we are on a discovery journey. So similarly as well, we want our customer to be able to explore. So there are a lot of public available options out there for customers to use to understand, number one, how it will make their operations a little bit easier. You don't need to sign your life with one single vendor. Yeah, it's not a contract, it's publicly available. So all you need probably is a login, which is not going to take an arm or a leg from you. So we are trying to tell the customer that too. But at the same time, if customers are also happy to work with one single vendor, we as carrier will like to see how we can support their journey. So this discussion with customers have to take place and have to be continuous, because to us, this forms customer centricity. Yeah, so it's a key value of PIL that we have to continue with customer centricity, regardless of whatever journey that we are on in terms of digital transformation. Then another thing, of course, we have to find ways to tackle the standardization and the framework with the legal part that we count on your teams like yourself, the government, to help support and to try and tackle concerns when it comes to, this law doesn't apply, how. So we also need support from that in the government to help us to bring certain light at the end of that tunnel. Yeah, so we count on the government to do so. And yeah, so that's how I see things. I mean, in an overall nutshell, without making it too technical for people to understand.
Yeah. I think we have managed to cover quite a number of interesting points. Yeah, before we actually end our conversation, is there any particular points that is burning in your heart that you want to share with your audience?
I would say that from, like I said earlier, maybe just a few words on what we are trying to do in PIL. I said that we are on a digital transformation journey. So I'm sure customers who are on listening in or viewing this podcast, people who know PIL will also notice that PIL has vastly changed the way that we are approaching things these days. You will see us a lot more on LinkedIn, we are a little bit more visible, and you will hear us a lot more. Because of all these things, we also see a lot of traction coming from the customers to us to socialize, number one, to also ask us about, what is it that I just saw the other day that was on your post? So we want to tackle that. This is the reason why we want to use this opportunity to tell you that PIL is definitely on a transformation journey. But fear not, customers is still at the heart of our organization. That's why everything that we do is really circling, creating value for our customers. So that's number one. Then another thing that is burning, I would say, I wonder a little bit more on how we can bring forth a lot more stakeholders to get these known issues that we have circling EBL and its adoption sooner. Because a lot of these issues are also probably 15 years old, and maybe even older. I would hope that as an industry, we are able to tackle all these issues together and get them resolved, or at least get them, sort of mitigated this time around. Because everybody now put a stamp on to say that we want to do EBL, and I really wish that we are able to do it this time. And I think we're on the right track, I would say. Yeah, so let's put this in together. Yeah.
You said we have been trying to solve this problem for 15 years.
Yes.
I mean, our predecessor that trying to solve this problem, I'm sure they are also come up with new way of solving it. So I think one of the key to solving this decade-old problem is to be able to clearly know that what are we doing differently from the past.
Exactly.
If we still stick on to the traditional
Yes.
way of solving problem, I don't think we will be able to solve it.
Indeed.
My personal view.
No, for sure. And I think for the owners and business owners out there, we need to be able to answer this question, what's in it for them?
Yeah.
Maybe the question is, what about incentives for owners? Incentives for businesses?
Yeah.
Tax rebates for businesses if they go E, if they reach a amount of E. Now I'm talking purely from my own view. Perhaps that could be something that, I don't know, could be considered. I really don't know. But because we have to answer this question, right? Yeah. What's in it for you?
Right.
Yeah, you have to put a carrot at the end of the stick.
Right.
So, come closer to what we are trying to achieve. I'll leave that to you.
Isabel, I think we have touched on many interesting points today, and I can even feel your excitement.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today and spending your precious time with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Sin Yong.
To our audience, I hope you have enjoyed the interesting conversation I had with Isabel. I look forward to seeing you again in our podcast.